Wednesday, May 28th, 2025, and a very warm welcome back. This is the 48th edition of Finwell Daily Brief.
Great to be here.
Let's jump right in with something interesting about, Bharat. Did you know that over 60%, more than half of Indian households really ramp up their gold buying in May and June?
The wedding season effect.
Exactly. And get this buying spree actually makes up a huge 40% of the entire year's gold demand, even with prices doing their little dance lately.
It really shows you how ingrained gold is, doesn't it? It's much more than just, an asset on a spreadsheet. It's tradition.
Absolutely. Culture, celebrations, it's all tied up. Okay, let's get you up to speed on the markets. Closing bells as of 3:3 p.m. IST today.
How did things shake up?
Well, the Nifty 50 closed at 24,752.45. That's down just a bit. 0.30%.
Okay, slight dip there.
But the Nifty Midcap 150, it actually nudged up slightly, 0.05%, closing at 21,044.42.
So some resilience in the mid caps.
And the small caps, they were the clear winners today. The Nifty Small Cap 250 up a solid 0.41%, finishing at 16,706.35.
Interesting divergence. Small caps feeling optimistic.
Seems like it. Overall, though, the Nifty Total Market Index ended at 12,819.85, down just 0.14%. So a bit of a mixed bag, really.
Yeah, definitely mixed. Suggests maybe some caution, perhaps folks waiting on global cues.
Could be. Now, speaking of big players, the RBI, our Reserve Bank of India, they've approved a pretty hefty surplus transfer to the government, 2.69 lakh crore.
Wow, that's a significant number.
It is, though apparently the market might have been hoping for even a little more, but still, 2.69 lakh crore. What's the story there?
Well, you're right. Maybe slightly below the highest expectations, but it's still a very strong signal. It really underscores the health of India's forex reserves.
Okay. Good management, too.
Exactly. Points to good fiscal management. Basically, the RBI had a good year, and this is part of sharing that gain, the big impact. This liquidity should really help support the government's infrastructure spending plans.
So fueling infra projects, that's key.
Absolutely could provide a real boost there.
Okay. Shifting slightly. Indian companies seem busy in the bond market, raising $270 billion through short-term bonds.
Yes, quite active. And the likely reason is, lower borrowing costs, after the RBI's rate cuts.
Makes sense. Strike while the iron's hot, basically.
Precisely. And it's interesting, about half of the bonds issued this May, they mature within 5 years. Short-term focus.
Right. And who's doing the issuing mostly?
Primarily non-bank financial institutions and BSEs.
Yeah.
They're dominating these sales, which might suggest, a shift in where investors are finding attractive yields right now.
Interesting dynamic. Okay, back to gold. Despite those price fluctuations we mentioned, demand seems pretty solid.
It does. It's quite resilient. After that sharp drop earlier, 24-karat gold has sort of settled around 97,480 per 10 grams.
And the wedding season is the cushion.
That's the major factor, yes.
Yeah.
As we said, it underpins a huge chunk of demand. People might be a bit cautious buying at these levels, sure, but that cultural pull is very strong, provides a solid floor.
It really does. Okay, let's take a quick look globally. Markets seem a bit more positive.
Yeah, a little bit of an uptick. Asian shares, for instance, were up around 0.3%. A lot of that positive feeling seems tied to NVIDIA's strong Q1 forecast.
The TAC effect. Huge growth there.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
66% year-on-year growth forecast. Plus, maybe some easing of U.S.-EU trade tensions helping the mood.
Good news. Anything else on the global front?
Well, the U.S. dollar index did strengthen a bit, up to 99.3. Seems linked to some robust U.S. consumer data coming out, so a few different forces at play.
Got it. Okay, back home, IPO news. Aegis Vopak's 1.200 crore IPO seems to be a hit.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
It got fully subscribed ahead of schedule, actually. Oversubscribed 1.22 times overall. Shows strong interest.
And today, May 28th, was the last day to subscribe.
That's right. And for anyone listening who got in, trading is expected to kick off on June 2nd.
Okay. And just remind us, Aegis Vopak, they're in liquid storage.
Correct. Liquid storage provider. And what's quite telling is the interest from the big players, the qualified institutional buyers or QIBs. They oversubscribed their portion by 1.88 times.
That's significant institutional confidence.
It is. Analysts seem pretty positive, too, highlighting their leadership, especially in LPG storage, and pointing to a strong revenue CAGR, that's compound annual growth rate, of about 18%.
Sounds like a solid debut, then. Now, let's talk bonds again. India's 10-year benchmark yield, it dipped a bit.
Yes, eased down to 6.18%. This mainly reflects expectations, that the RBI might cut rates further. Plus, liquidity in the system seems to have improved.
And what about the gap between Indian and U.S. bond yields?
Ah, that's quite noteworthy. The spread has narrowed to just 164 basis points. That's the tightest it's been since, believe it or not, 2004.
Wow, 20 years. That's quite something. What does that mean practically?
Well, a narrower spread could potentially make Indian debt more attractive to foreign investors. Could see more inflows.
Which would also support the rupee.
Exactly. Speaking of which, the rupee today was trading around 85.35 against the dollar. It actually recovered from some earlier lows.
How come?
Seems like RBI intervention played a role again. They likely stepped in to balance out that usual month-end dollar demand you see from importers.
Okay, good to see the RBI active there. So, summing up the day, cautious optimism.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Equities were mixed, but small caps showed strength, maybe retail-driven. Bond yields down on rate cut hopes and RBI actions. And the rupee, stable thanks to inflows and the RBI keeping watch.
Right. So, looking ahead, any particular sectors you think we should keep an eye on?
Well, banking and financials could be interesting. They might benefit from a steeper yield curve and all this extra liquidity.
Okay, what else?
Tech, definitely. Need to see how NVIDIA's earnings actually land and how that affects FPI flows into our own IT sector.
Makes sense. And commodities. Gold.
Gold's stability around that 97,480 mark is interesting. After the correction, you might see some tactical buying creep in. Worth watching.
Okay. And key events or data points coming up?
Definitely keep an eye out for the U.S. GDP data on May 30th. That's always important globally.
Right. And domestically?
The RBI's June policy meeting, of course. Everyone will be watching for rate signals. And that India-U.S. yield spread, the 20-year low, its impact on debt flows, is something to monitor closely. It could be quite supportive for the rupee if it attracts significant foreign money.
Lots to track. Now, before we move on, something really important we need to talk about. Staying safe.
Absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
There's been a rise in these fake press release scams. We need you to be aware.
Yes, it's a nasty trick. Can you explain how it works?
Sure. Basically, fraudsters cook up fake news announcements about companies, things like fake mergers or, fake positive results. The goal is to manipulate the stock price, pump it up or push it down.
And they make them look real.
Deceptively so. They mimic official news portals, corporate styles, then blast them out on social media, messaging apps. It spreads fast.
That's dangerous. So what's the defense? How can people protect themselves?
The golden rule is always, always verify. Before you make any trade based on some announcement, check the official source. Go to the stock exchange websites, BSE, NSE, check SEBI's scores portal.
Don't just trust a WhatsApp forward or a social media post.
Absolutely not. Take those few extra minutes, verify from the official source. It can save you a lot of trouble and money.
Excellent advice. Verify, verify, verify. Okay, let's try and wrap things up for today.
So looking at today, the market felt a bit cautious, likely ahead of that global data we mentioned. But, underneath that caution, India's fundamentals look pretty solid.
Right. Things like consistent FDI.
Exactly. Consistent FDI, the liquidity support from the RBI we discussed, and even the positive IPO momentum. It all points to long-term resilience, basically.
So for retail investors listening,
the message is, stick to verified information, please. And think about diversification across sectors that have strong fundamentals. Don't put all your eggs in one basket based on rumor.
sound advice. Yeah, before we sign off, just a quick word. Hey, are you finding it tough to keep up with finance news every single day? Wish you had a quick, engaging way to get the key insights? Well, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button for Finwell Daily Brief right now. We give you the essentials, save you time, and make sure you understand the market moves that matter. It's your daily financial edge.
Stay informed. Stay ahead.
And hey, let's continue the conversation. Find SOS Finwell on LinkedIn. We'd love to connect, discuss things further, and share more updates there. Come join our community. Subscribe to Finwell Daily Brief. Outro.
And as we close, perhaps reflect on this quote from the great Philip Fisher. The stock market is filled with individuals who know the price of everything, the value of nothing.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
A big thank you for joining us on this edition of Finwell Daily Brief. Stay informed, make wise choices, and we'll catch you next time.